You're not earning enough in your search business because you are in the wrong niche, or indeed the niche you're in, you're not dominating to the extent you need to. Now, in Apex, one of the assessments we run is the 4D niche assessment, the 4D niche assessment. That's focusing on your domain, your dollars, the demands in the niche, and the ability for you to defend that niche. So let's walk through these one at a time. And again, this isn't how to identify a niche. That's a completely different approach. This is to make an assessment on what you're doing now. So let's say in the last 12 months, you've been looking to bring in 1.5 million, and you've got your own figure. You've got your own fee figure, you've got number of retained placements, you've got number of actual candidates inside your mapping, number you've actually placed at a certain fee. However, if you roll up everything around you, and that includes leads, conversion, delivery, which are the three elements to your business, if you round it all up, it will come down to, are you in the right niche? So lots of people tell me they are niched, and then very quickly you can see they are not niched at all. So the perception you want to be taking is that of your client and that indeed of your candidate. Are you really a niche leader? So let's make this assessment right now. So first of all, domain. So domain, what is the capital focus of your niche, the vertical focus of your niche, and the function focus of your niche? Now, what I used to always do at Recruitment Marketing International, which is my company from 2010 to end of 2023, early 24, is we focus on a niche, and we'd be heavily looking at the vertical and the function. And then from there, we'd run a mapping. I believe that executive search has changed in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And the last 12 months has seen another shift again. With the onset of AI, what is happening is a lot of the search functions and a lot of the ability to bring lead functions are being removed. But what will never change is that end-to-end relationship with the client or with the candidate. So what's now really part of the decision-making process is, have we got to focus on the capital in our domain? So let's take this as a example. Let's say that we've got a domain, and our domain is, we're dealing with SaaS. So Jonathan, hopefully you're doing well. I spoke to you for a couple of years. We've got SaaS, and our function is CFOs in this simple example. But then the capital side of it, where's that capital coming from? In this example, it's PE backed. Now, one of the big changes that I believe has happened in executive search is we focus on the niche. I now believe we need to focus on the niche, but also the trigger events in that niche that I'll come to in demand shortly. So what's the actual capital side of things in this niche? So in this case, we've got PE backed, is where the capital's coming from. The niche is vertical. The vertical, is SaaS, and the function is CFO. So take that as an example. So I want you to start to percolate and think about your niche. Now, this will drill down into obviously a number of different functions, a number of different verticals, a number of different drivers for where the capital's coming from. But that capital element is something that we need to be focusing on more and more. Next, again, make an assessment of our niche. What's the average fee in this niche that we're dealing with? So in this example, we've got an average fee of 90K. Is it retained? I'm hoping you're in a retained niche. Is it retained? Yes. And who signs that signs that off? So in this case, we've got the PE partners signing that off. Why that's important, I'll come to shortly. Because one of the things that is becoming more of a headache for you and more of a pain for your spouse is when you go home and you're quiet and you switched off and your spouse thinks they've done something wrong. It's not. Why is that? It's because your clients ghosted you. It's because your candidates ghosted you. And there are a number of reasons why that happened. We're not covering that right now. But I want to really get into this focus of what are the trigger events, who is the trigger event, and what's the impact of that trigger event. Because we take all this action inside our search business, so much action, but in fact we can break it down to a few fundamentals that we'll come to shortly. Next, demand in the niche. So what are the trigger events for the niche? So again, what we normally do is, or we'll say normally, what we used to do is we look at the vertical, we look at the function, so the candidate function, the client function, and one of the things that I brought into recruitment about 15 years ago was mapping the market. So in this market, these are a number of clients, and there'd be, say, 1,000 companies, 3 decision makers in each. So we've got 3,000 decision makers, 3,000 decision makers. Then let's say we've got 10,000 candidates, so 10,000 candidates for those 3,000 decision makers. And map them across, a bit like blind date, a bit like online dating. Then we can start to use automation to bring these together. I believe that system is now becoming defunct and it's becoming absolutely bastardized because we have so many people doing the same thing. Your client's sitting there getting absolutely bombarded with cold emails, cold videos, and just being drowned. And they can do a lot of this work themselves, and it's killing your branding, killing your position. There's no way that's going to turn into a retained business in a bigger picture, and no way it's helping your branding. So what are the trigger events? Rather than just map the market, what are the trigger events? So in this case, let's take some examples. Let's deal with, again, SaaS. Let's deal with PE-backed. So trigger events might be investments coming in. It might be expansion in that business. It might be a replacement. Replacement may come down to two key drivers in this particular niche. One is underperformance, or two is there's a succession plan in place. So in this case, let's say we got a CEO change. CEO change will potentially bring in not only the change of CEO, but obviously their own board. And underneath the board, their own people. So this one role here could equate to 30 roles. I've seen that firsthand. I was on a project for this many, many years ago for B in Livingston. At the time, it was the biggest CRM replacement in Europe. I had a team of 50 to 75 people at any one point. Me and another chap were managing this team. And we saw firsthand this. Our agent came in, she hired me and 5 others, but that one project essentially allowed her to retire. The project went on for a long, long time. In fact, it's the infamous EDS project, where everybody was sacked off that project, barring about 20 of us. I was one of the 20. However, the point I'm making is this one CEO change could bring in an awful lot of business for you if we've got the positioning inside our niche. So demand, what are the trigger events? So one thing that we've been focusing on search for, if we go back to maybe 20 years ago, it would come down to relationships, who you know, what you know. But that who you know has been removed now with the onset of social media and online. So in the old days, it would be everyone in the world knew themselves, knew everyone else in the world by a degree of 7. What that means is if you take out everyone in the world, by 7 relationships, you'll know everyone in the world. You can be connected to everybody in the world. Not that LinkedIn does that for us. Now, that figure is 3, just 3. So relationships used to be the driver for business. And it still does to some degree, but can you look at your own business, look at your own clients, your own candidates, and they've always been close, but now they've gone elsewhere, they've ghosted you, or they've been replaced. So that relationship is becoming less and less prevalent nowadays. So what's replaced that is a trigger event. Now that's great. If you're analytical, you're methodical, and you are a go-getter, that's fantastic. Trigger events. Maybe even being a little bit autistic might be a benefit here, right? But in the old days, it would come down to relationships. Now we're still going through a transition of relationships into trigger events, I believe. But what this means is these can be identified, and then we can run a campaign based on trigger events, not just on a mapping that everyone in the world's got access to. Next, defensibility. So how can you defend this niche? How can you defend your position in the niche right now? Now, I don't know you. I don't know what you're doing in the niche right now. You know what you're doing and not doing. But here's the thing. Are you happy with your performance in your niche right now? Maybe, maybe not. So, again, remember what we're doing here is a 4D assessment. So domain, dollars, demand, and defensibility. This isn't choosing a new niche, it's you making an objective assessment of where you are in the niche. So number 1, track record. How many mandates have you got in this niche? Number 2, what's your business matter expert status? So one of the things that we did at Recruitment Marketing International is I had a strategy called the Maven strategy. And what this was is we stand on the shoulder of giants. So to give you an example, we had a member, and each time I created a strategy, I tested it with a handful of members till we got it converting, then we share it with our group, the inner circle. In this case, we had a business matter expert strategy, and what it was the Maven strategy. So we get world-class speakers, people who would be paid $5,000-$10,000 to speak at an event, at a conference, and we'd have these come onto our webinar for free. So very quickly, our clients could then align with the top 5 people in that niche, and for free. And we started to get this position as a business matter expert. But in fact, the member of the inner circle, my client, they may be new to the niche, but we can stand on the shoulders of giants to the point where you need to understand the niche. But those days also, again, with the onset of and proliferation of information online and AI, so whether it be AI videos, AI slop, AI text, AI reports going out, it's just inundated with AI. And I believe we're moving full circle back to authenticity. So what's your real score as a business matter expert? What's the real score? Not can you go and create something on ChatGTP or on Claude and put it out there. What's your real score as a business matter expert? Because your clients will pick up on this, and so will your candidates. Next, how recent is your involvement with the mandates? How recent is your involvement with the clients, with the candidates? So this is your current track record, just to get you insight to where you are. But you need to be real about this. Next, candidate. What's your candidate coverage? So if you look at, let's say, and I'll give you an example here of the top 250 to 1,000. You may want to focus on 250. It's easy for you to process. Of that top 250, how many are inside your one-to-one network? And what I mean by that is, how many would actually pick up the phone when you called them? Not, I've got 250 inside my database. Everyone can do that nowadays. You can do that in seconds. What I mean is, how many of those inside your network would actually respond to an engagement one-to-one from you and actually engage with you? And be real about this figure. So if you've got the 250, you might not even know who the 250 is. So you're starting already from a behind the starting blocks point. But of that 250, how many will actually engage you one-to-one and indeed allow you to move them forward, represent them? That relationship, if you were to look at your relationship with these candidates, how do you nurture them now? So again, if I go back to RMI days, Recruitment Marketing International days, we had a number of nurturing strategies. So campaigns bring the clients bring the clients and candidates in now, but then nurturing strategies will nurture them across the next 30, 90, 120, even a year plus, all automated, right? But what's the real nurturing score? How are you nurturing these candidates now? What's really going on? Is it you send out a newsletter to all of your contacts, which is completely vague and just disparate and just all over the place, beige? Or you've got another strategy whereby you're engaging one-to-one with these candidates. Now again, remember this. Let's say you're looking to do 2 million and each fee is 100K. That's 20 placements. That's not massive if you've got a process whereby we've got this is what I believe we should be doing inside search. You've got feast and famine. So you get client, get in mode. I've got a client, right, I need to get a candidate. So we've got no clients coming in. Right, I need to get the candidate. Not getting any clients coming in. But I need to get the clients, I've got no candidates coming in, etc. And then we run some automated process to try and keep them engaged. The world has changed a lot in the last 5 years. If we had a strategy whereby we start to isolate and say, right, week 1 is going to be client getting mode. That 1 week, we're going to make sure we get X amount of appointments. And then maybe we've got week 2, week 3, week 4, and we've got our conversion process, our candidate process, etc. Now this might be a 9-week cycle, it might be a 4-week cycle. However, we want to start thinking about what is our process to bring on board clients and candidates, and that in turn means that you might have the best goal in the world to be the most engaging, nurturing agent to your clients and to your candidates, but reality is this in search: feast and famine, up and down. Roles come in, drop everything, work like a dog, send messages from the toilet in the restaurant, hopefully you get that candidate on board, and we get into this up and down cycle. But what's really going on with your candidate coverage and your mapping and your engaging? From the client side, who actually signs off that relationship? Who signs off the relationship? Is there a 2-step process? Is there a 3-step process? Is it 1? Have you got direct access to that client? Again, you've probably mapped who those clients are. I'm hoping you have, because these are absolutely fundamental. So say we've got 250 clients, whether it be companies and there's 2 decision makers in each, or there's 1 decision maker per company. You've got that mapping, but again, what's your real relationship score? Not we send out a beige newsletter every month. What's your real relationship score with these 250? So again, would they pick up the phone to you one-to-one? Would they come to you if they've got a role? Again, remember this, trigger events. So a trigger event for your client's going to be, shit, something's hitting the fan. We're not going to hit target. We're exiting the business. We're expanding. So-and-so's getting the sack. So when that trigger event happens, generally your client's going to be in a place of stress. We need this fixed. So are you their trusted advisor? Have you got direct access? What's your nurturing process? Feeding back to that trigger event and you. Competitive edge. So who else is in the niche? Who else in the niche? Now your niche, the size of the niche, and we can break it down into mapping databases, you can do it into mapping fundamentals across roles. Your niche, I don't know who you are and who you are, and I definitely know you. Your niche, how big is it? But who else in your niche? And how do you compare to them? So are they true specialists? Are you a true specialist? Now the real question is, do your clients perceive them as a true specialist or perceive you as a true specialist? Let me grab my coffee. So with this competitive edge, be real clear and take the view of your client, of your candidate, get in their shoes for 2 seconds. How do they perceive you? How do they perceive you? And be real. Why are you going to win? And again, the niche can drill down to, the niche could be there are just 20 companies. The niche could be there are 2,000 companies. But be clear about defensibility. As things stand, how defensible are you in that niche? Now let's come down to some diagnostics. Back to domain. So in your company, let's say you're a company doing 20 million. The clients and candidates who engage with you, do they engage with the same person every single time? Do they go through a gatekeeper? Does the role get passed to a junior? Answer's probably yes to all of those in some format. So can every consultant describe what you do, describe your niche, describe your client, describe your candidate in the same way? Number two, does your LinkedIn, your website, your marketing, does it align to reflect the domain you're in? What usually happens is when you engage with a client, that client, if it's completely cold, will check your website from anywhere for 5 to 30 seconds, maybe longer, and they're going to check your LinkedIn again, maybe longer, and they'll be looking out for certain keywords. That's step one. Then they're going to drill deeper, step two, and so on. But these basic fundamentals in terms of domain, you could have a campaign. Someone said to you, right, you need to map the market, get 5,000 clients, run this campaign. The campaign figures could suck. And you're killing yourself going, right, how's this sucking? The landing page, if you're using a landing page, is good. The text looks good. I've used all the right buzzwords. I've got the right automation in place. But the check, they could then be checking against your LinkedIn, checking against your website, and that's where they drop off. So your campaign could be running 10 out of 10, but the basic fundamentals of your domain are missing. But you won't know that. Next, dollars. Quick diagnostic. What's the upper fee in this niche? So what's the upper fee in this niche? So the upper fee is 90K. What's our fee been? Well, our average fee's been 60K. So you've got a gap there. Why have you got that gap? Why does that gap exist? You've probably discounted to get the role. But why does that gap existing? Number one. Number two, you've got no mandates in the niche. No mandates. Over, what's the total number of mandates in the niche? Why is that? Or what's the total number of mandates in this niche? So let's say there's been 400 roles in the last year. You've had 4 of them. Where's the other 99% gone? Why is that? What's happening there? Next, number of roles per company. So this is an easy win or an easy loss. So let's say we got company A and there have been 5 roles in the last year. You've had one of those roles. Why is that? Not we've done well, we've got 1 role in this company. You've actually lost 80% of roles in that company. And that one company could have brought in 1/4 of all your business for the year. It could have brought in 500,000. So number of roles per company versus your total of roles in that company. What's the figure? And again, why? What's the gap? What's the gap that we've got? Next, demand. Demand. So what are the trigger events? So this is again a diagnostic. It isn't a plan to move forward. It's you being real, a diagnostic of, right, what are the trigger events to my top 150 clients in the last 90 days? What do I know? What's been the trigger events in the last 12 months? What do I know? Shit, I don't know. I speak to Steve every now and again. Rachel sends me an inside scoop. I go for a coffee with Ben. How many placements have there been in your niche? Each of those placements have been preceded by a trigger event. What are those trigger events? How can those trigger events be identified? Now, there are tools out there that can give you this information on trigger events, as well as network. Number 2, visibility ahead of time. So what's your visibility ahead of time with these trigger events? Number 3, what process do you have in place for these trigger events? So again, often we get lost in, I'm going to be running a campaign against these clients. I'm going to get X amount of responses, X amount saying, fuck off. But what's the actual process you've got for the trigger event? Not just for the basics of we're mapped to market and we're sending out a campaign. What precedes this? And what's the total of opportunities per quarter you've had? What's the total of opportunities you had per quarter versus total in the quarter? Now let's move on to defensibility. I want to get this out quick. So number of mandates for the last 0 to 5 years. What's the top number of mandates 0 to 5 years? Do the top 250 candidates take your calls? Not, Andy, I've mapped them. We've got them in a database. Who cares? Everybody's got access to everybody now. Who cares? Same with clients. Top 250. How many of those would take your calls? Now be real. Treat this as a heart surgeon. Be real with yourself. We're fucked. 1 would take our call. I don't even know who they are. Be real. Because if you make a decision, and this is pivotal, if you're there, and this is where you're going now, You make a decision in your business and take it out 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you've got a completely different destination, right? Completely different destination. And this diagnostic we're going through now, which is a very, very casual diagnostic, is just let you understand and get you, well, for you to see, shit, I've got a problem. Next. Sort of fits in. With our 250, if we look at your process for conversion, now again, this is maybe I shouldn't have put this in here, but if we look at your process for conversion, so in this case, we've got trigger event, then we got engage, then we got conversion with the client. So trigger event over here, engage, so one-to-one, and then we got conversion, get the mandate signed. What's the point of failure here? What's your point of failure with the 250? Now, I'm guessing for a lot of you, it's going to be, shit, we don't even know the trigger events. We got no mechanism for that. We're just splaying and praying. It might be you actually get the one-to-ones and then you suck at that. Maybe it's before the one-to-ones you've got no conversion material going out. Maybe that up here, your base positioning completely sucks. You got the most awesome campaign, but your base positioning sucks. What's the point of failure? And then, being real, are we materially a specialist, and are we different? We all say we're different because what? I'm different because I've been doing this 15 years. I'm different because these strategies I create after doing a lot of analysis, a lot of assessment, tests with some members, and then we put them out to the rest of the boardroom. I've been doing this process for 15 years. Always ahead of the curve, I believe. But then before that, I was in investment banking. I saw how the hiring process took place. Then I was in media. I saw how the hiring process took place. Down here with the team I had, I've seen both sides of the fence. I've seen inside HR, in big companies, big corporates. I've been inside small companies. But are you really a specialist? Are you really a specialist? That doesn't mean if you're not now, you can't become one. So I mentioned on a video the other day, fantastic lady, Laura, veterinary space. She had been in the space for a while and we upped her fee substantially and were fully retained. Why? I said to her on an inner circle call, just do it. Was that the strategy, Andy? Yeah, just do it and come back to me. Get your next 6 proposals out there, then come back to me with increase in fee, is the conversion the same, and go fully retained. Is the conversion the same? Actually went up. But why could she do that? Because she was a specialist. She'd been inside that niche for a long period of time, knew it back to front. So we had a lead process in place with Laura as well, which worked really, really well. But then what we had is the necessity just to push her over the line. So you've got the positioning, you've got the leads coming in. So if these 6 proposals we send out, they suck, we can go back, try and claw them back. But this is about taking your business out 1 year, 5 years now, 10 years. But we had the positioning, we had the niche speciality in place. We needed to move something further down the line. With you, it might be something right at the top of the line, basic fundamentals. It might be something in terms of the conversion process. With Laura, it's a case of, we've got these fundamentals in place, trust me, take that step, because the work has been done upstream. So domain, dollars, demand, defensibility. Let's take some action points now. Let's take some action points. So grab your pen. Number 1, dollars. I want you to write this down. So my niche is this capital. This is where the capital comes from. This vertical and this function. So you might have 10, 15, 20 of those. So for example, with SaaS, with CFO, we might have PE backed. We might have an incumbent. So what are your different domain specialties? Number 2. And on that, by the way, if you don't know exactly where the backing comes from, trace it back to who signs it and then trace back again to understand what the actual mechanism is and where the funding comes from. Now, I'm not going to tell you to go away and change your website and strip everything else back and go fully into this niche. I've never spoken to you. But what I'm saying to you is, if you've got a page on your website or on your LinkedIn where you've focused on this niche, make sure you strip out everything around that. So it's very clear that for this niche part, this is what you do on LinkedIn and on your website. Next, if you haven't done this, I'm guessing a lot of you wouldn't have done this, take the top 30 companies in your niche, get clarity on these and these points, and then fill the gap. So if your website doesn't reflect it, if your LinkedIn doesn't reflect it, fill the gap, number one. Number two, dollars. So calculate the real average fee in the last 24 months. So in your niche, calculate the real average fee in the last 24 months. That might be some conversations you need to have. It might be you've got other buddies inside the search space, inside the same niche. Always be aware of that though. But calculate the real average fee in the last 24 months. Next, set your minimum fee moving forward. No discounts. So you might be in a position whereby you've hit $1 million and you're looking to get to $3 million this year. It might be in a position where you're doing $500,000 and you're looking to get to $1 million. With Laura, part of that taking the next step is taking action, and that means having kahunas to make a change. So what's the minimum fee you're going to take, and don't move from that. Now, one thing you'll find is this also. As you move forward and you start to separate yourself from the market, and there are a lot of fundamentals to make this happen, which haven't, this is a diagnostic, it isn't a roadmap to change or a roadmap to become the niche leader. But what you'll find is, as you become that, as your fee increases, your conversion will actually stay the same or indeed increase. Remember, I put this out on a LinkedIn post recently. I said, nobody Googles cheap heart surgeon. Nobody Googles cheap heart surgeon. Your MD over here, your CEO over here is not fussed about paying 30% more if he knows that everything that follows from there is in hand. He doesn't want to have a contract that says in 90 days, if this royally fucks up, we're going to find someone else for you. It's great you got it. They might help with conversion, but do you think that's what he wants? No. So you bring the conversion upstream. So you get focused on what your client wants and what they really, really, really want. Now commit for 12 months. We're going to only go retained and only go this fee and above in whatever niche that is. You might be in many niches, which is difficult, but if you map your, I just start to draw this out somewhere over here. If you've got your niche, let's do it up here. Let's say you got your niche. And then let's say, for example, keep it nice and simple. Let's say we got SaaS. And inside SaaS, keep it nice. Let's say we've got an agile framework. So we got project management, then we got business requirements, then we've got development, then we got test, then we got op release. So let's say that's the 5 stages to this SaaS business case. We've got project management, we've got the business analysis, we've got development, then we got test, and we got ops release. Simple example. If you take that as a niche, so in SaaS, so of course in SaaS, what SaaS is it? Underneath that is going to be a whole different set of SaaSes, then different functions again. It goes on and on. So your niche derivation needs to be dependent on who you are and what you're doing. But get focused on what that is. And for the next 12 months, commit to that sub niche. This is what we're going to do. Shouldn't really need to say this now, but it still blows me away. The bigger the net, you're not going to earn more. Bigger the net, it's absolute fallacy. Next, defensibility. So I do the top 3 competitors. You're going to do this. Bit of a hack for you. Go to your top 3 competitors. Go to their website. Copy all the text off their website. Go to their LinkedIn. Copy all the text off their LinkedIn. Then put it into a word cloud. So you're going to put all the website text from your top 3 competitors, all the LinkedIn text from your top 3 competitors, rainmakers, decision makers, etc. Put them into a word cloud. The word cloud will then spit out what are essentially the most used words, the most important used words, and the different ways you can structure this. But it will give you, this is what the niche really is. These are the key words. These are the words that clients look at. These are the buzzwords. These are the drivers. This is what you need to be using in your profile, etc. So do that if you do nothing else, and they give you an insight into, we're fucked. We're not even doing these base fundamentals on our website. No wonder nothing's working. Look at your campaigns. Our campaigns are fucked. These are basic things. So do that word cloud exercise, and it'll give you a real key insight. Next, speak to top 50 candidates. So this might sting a bit. If you've got the top 50 candidates here, now remember these candidates, lots of them are going to become senior candidates. So you're going to place the candidate, then what's going to happen is you're going to place the candidate, let's say you place them into a board role or into a senior management role, they then will be hiring at some point. And of course, what you want is, if you've got that one company and you've placed a decision maker and he hires 4 people, you want to be that person that hires 4 people. Comes back to in this example, you should have hired the 5 people for that year, not just the 1. If you haven't, you've messed up somewhere. We don't cover that role. Cover that role then. You're sitting under a niche domain, under a vertical and under a function, and you should be able to map it out like this. So speak to top 50 candidates and have a conversation around essentially how you're perceived. You're not going to say that to them. You're not going to say, do you think we're cool? Do you like us? Are we experts? Do you like my hair? You're not going to be saying that. You want to understand the perception they've got of you. Now, the way you can do that, there's a number of different ways you can do that, but you want to speak to those 50 candidates. And again, listen. You listen. You shouldn't be on the call trying to convert them. You want to listen. So about their current role, what they're looking for in the future, market changes, what are their drivers, what are their trigger events? Well, the trigger event is my wife wants to move. Trigger event is I want to go and work for Tesla. Trigger event is etc., etc. So you start to have conversations with candidates, but they're going to give you information around your real positioning, how you're really perceived. Listen. And next, the feedback you get here from these top 50 candidates, you're going to feed that into your business development. Yes, not just your candidate development, your business development. So one of the big drivers that I'm focusing on now with Apex and my boardroom members is we want to be focusing on niche leadership, high fee roles, retain business, and looking to get into rapid growth. And that's not by being transactional and placing 100 temp roles. This is going to be by placing high fee roles, less work roles. The amount of work it takes to place someone at 10K, the amount of work it takes to place someone at 100K is pretty much the same. You're dealing with a higher caliber of person. The cycle might be expanded, but then if you plan your business properly, your cycle is going to be like this across the year. So you've always got money coming in, you've always got fees complete, you've always got roles completing. And again, that comes down to being structured and not doing this, feast and famine, which unfortunately is how most live in executive search. And it gives you grey hair, a pissed off spouse, and it means you're texting from the toilet at your favourite restaurant. Don't want to be doing that. So these 12 actions, they're all very clean. They're very clean. There's nothing here where you need something, a special tool. Work allows you can get for free. They're all direct. These actions are direct. You should be able to already have an understanding about, right, to make that happen, I need to do this. And remember, this is a niche assessment. This is a diagnostic. This is not a plan. This is for you to assess where you are now and do we need to make a plan? Am I really the niche leader? And let's say you want to get to 3 mil this year and you're currently doing 1 mil. Right, how many placements is that? What's the fee? So if you look here, for example, if your fee is 40% under the average fee, or if you've missed out on 4 placements you should have got, you've got 40% there, that you're 40% under the fee, times by 4 roles you should have got, very quickly you can see how you start to make up your 1 million to 2 million, even with base business fundamentals, without all the cool, fancy singing and dancing, really cool stuff that I'm not going to share with you right now. So with that said, this is the Apex 40 niche assessment. Let me know what you think in the comments, send me a message on LinkedIn, and let me know about these 12 actions, how you get on. Speak to you soon, Andy Whitehead, Apex.